Welcome back to our In Focus discussion tonight. You know, there's an old adage against the game of golf that it's a good walk spoiled. But you don't want to tell that to a golfer. Golfers are passionate about the sport. Golf does have this reputation. You know, there's people who think it's too expensive, it's elitist, so many different names for it. And yet, Utah of all states seems to have really reasonably priced quality courses, a sense of accessibility you might not find elsewhere, and then COVID has really exploded the game of golf. So tonight we really wanted to look into the sport here, talk with Utah golfers about what the state gets right and where some improvements can be made. So joining us tonight, Jake Miller, Executive Director of the Utah Golf Association, and Paul Pugmire, Executive Director of First Tee Utah. Thanks guys for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so let's start the conversation tonight about Utah golf. The first course was Nibley. It's still active. Can we talk a little bit about the history there and why it was created?
Yeah, sure. Jake, do you want to?
Yeah, actually the Country Club of Salt Lake was the very first golf course in Utah. Nibley Park was the first public golf course in Utah, donated by the Nibley family, and is currently managed by Salt Lake City Golf. Public golf in the state is highly important, and Nibley was a huge piece of getting public golf started in the early 1900s.
Early 1900s. Wow. So it seems like the majority of courses here in Utah are owned by like cities, counties, or even the state. Is that normal compared to other states? Does that make golf a little bit more affordable for Utahns, if that's the case?
I would say that golf in Utah, with how much is municipally owned, is unique from around the country. We probably have the largest percentage of municipally owned golf courses around the country, as well as the largest amount of public golf courses compared to private courses in the country. So it's one of those things that Utah can be extremely proud of because you have opportunities to play pretty much every track in the state.
Yeah, there's some really expensive golf courses in certain states, but I don't know if folks in Utah quite get how good they have it, because the quality here for the price at some of these municipal courses is really hard to beat. These are not courses where all the grass is dead. These are nice, well-maintained courses that you see folks from all walks of life going to play. But can we talk about this? Is this anecdotal, or is popularity of golf very high here in Utah? And Paul, can you take this one?
Yeah. You know, you were just putting up video of Glendale. That's a City of Salt Lake course that is a good golf course with good shot values, and it's in good condition, and it's very accessible right off the downtown and very affordable. You can go out and play Glendale for in the low 30s, depending on time of day and a few other things, day of the week. But Glendale, the thing about Glendale is that it's not an outlier. There are several golf courses that are available that people can go play, that really good golf experiences. Now you're putting up Glenmore. Glenmore is a course in South Jordan that the owners of it, it's actually privately owned, even though it's open to the public, and they've poured a lot of money into improving it here in the last year. It already was good, and it's even better now, and again, very affordable. It's a really great golf experience and something that people can go play.
Well, I just seeing the video there, people in shorts. I mean, golf has this reputation for being stuffy, but like you see folks from all walks of life, and then when you talk about low 30s, I mean, you can't get a meal at McDonald's anymore for under $10. So you get out there for 4 or 5 hours for $30, and then you start to rethink. You're outside, and you get this sort of freedom to go play the sport. What do you want to say to people who still have this idea of what golf is?
You know, I'd like to start with that, and then Jake, I'm real interested to hear your take on it as well. I run the First Tee. First Tee is a youth development organization, part of a national group that is about the business of helping kids get access to the game of golf and learn character values and life skills through the game of golf. And so we are very involved in bringing people into the game. And one thing we see, Nick, is that it is really appealing to a broad swath of kids. Kids from all neighborhoods, kids from all backgrounds, and all are welcome at First Tee. We turn no kid away for lack of ability to pay. We help them get clubs if they need it. We help them get onto the golf course if they need it. And we see the demand for this and the interest in this growing. Now that's just among the kids. At the Utah Golf Association, Jake will tell you that's happening with adults as well.
Well, Jake, let's get to that in a second, because as I kind of teased earlier, COVID has led to an explosion in golf participation. But let's talk about the tournaments offered in Utah. We have the State Am, State Amateur, very long history, kind of an incredible following. Tell me about that if folks don't know about it.
Yeah, if you like tournament golf, there's not a better state in the country to live than Utah. We have one of the best, most variety amateur golf scene in the country. You can play individual amateur events from early season down in St. George, Utah, all the way up to Logan, all through the summer. If you wanted a weekend golf tournament in June, you'd have about 10 different ones to pick from. So the variety is there, but then when you look at some of the tournaments like the Utah State Amateur, it's celebrated its 123rd anniversary this year and is the longest continuous running golf tournament in the world. There are older tournaments, the British Open being an example, but all of them stopped for major world wars or other things, and the Utah State Amateur has never done so. We've had the best golfers in the state, including guys like Tony Finau, Zach Blair, Daniel Summerhays, all be crowned Utah State Amateur champions, and had our first international player in Martine Leon, as you can see there, win the Utah State Amateur this year. It's an event we're exceptionally proud of. It's one of the biggest state amateurs around the country. If you look at per capita size, we have almost 900 participants on an annual basis. We utilize 11 qualifying sites for the tournament and then 2 championship sites to get down to that one player after a week's worth of golf. So certainly a tournament with rich, storied history. And I think the other great thing about the Utah State Am is the professionals in the state, all the PGA pros, most of them when they were young high school and college and junior players played in the State Am. So it has a special place in their heart, and they're always willing to host qualifiers and host the championship. So it's an event that just ties in all golf in the state.
It's not just the local community club championship. This is a true event that brings in folks from all over. A lot more to talk about, and not that there's anything wrong with those, because those are awesome as well. Jacob Miller, Paul Pugmire, we're going to continue our conversation on the state of golf in Utah right after the break. Stick with us. And thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on the state of golf in Utah. We're back with Jacob Miller from the Utah Golf Association, Paul Pugmire from the First Tee Utah. And let's start this part of the conversation with some context here. From everything I've read, COVID just led to this boom in golf like we haven't seen since Tiger dominated in the 97 Masters, totally changed the whole environment around golf. But speaking of the environment, because we have more people playing this year, let's talk about the extreme drought also happening along with this big headline, which is this globally changing pandemic. How are golf courses here in Utah, how are they managed during times like these when we're talking about such historic drought? And Paul, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So you see golf courses making adjustments to the way they're managing their water use and their water consumption. It's really visible when you look at satellite pictures from a year ago or 2 years ago and look at what's going on now. It makes the game a little bit more of a target game, going from point A to point B and picking watered grass along the way. Plus, and this really should be noted, organizations like the United States Golf Association and the Superintendents Association have been working together with great research universities like Penn State to develop different strains of grass that use less water. And you add all of these things together, and the water use profile is really going down and becoming much more compatible with using less water on the golf courses. Plus, golf courses for several years have been set up in a way to let them be green spaces that are attractive for and habitat for a variety of wildlife. This is all, we understand better how to integrate the use of water, how to integrate the management of a golf course into the environment around us, and things are really doing much better in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, critics will talk about the water use, but then you mention green space and you think of a golf course like Stonebridge in West Valley, which has just a ton of commercial space around there, but you have sort of that little oasis of green there, and it's there, right? You can't manufacture that much land and create a park, but it is there right now. So kind of interesting, side by side there. Paul, I wonder, we just chatted with you there, but Jacob, St. George is such a mecca for golf, right? It's also an area where water is always a front and center issue, so you've got this great destination for golf, but how are the courses there maintained, especially with the pronounced drought down there, with more pressure, I guess, for water use?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, water usage, in the game of golf is always going to be a question, especially here on the western side of the United States. I think the most important thing when you look at water in St. George is that those golf courses are built differently. They're built as desert golf courses, and you'll see a difference from northern Utah or parts of the north or the northeast, that you see fields and fields of an acreage of maintained turf, and that's something that you're just not going to see in desert areas like St. George or Phoenix or even Southern California. There's a lot less turf that's being maintained, a lot less irrigation that's needed to keep those golf courses and the playing conditions good. I mean, the other piece of that is lots of places are looking at secondary water. The fertility programs that superintendents apply to these golf courses is really second to none. You know, golf really leads all turf grass in terms of sports. Even football and baseball look to golf turf grass research to make their playing conditions better. And not all grass is green simply due to water. You look at things like wetting agents and establishing higher mowing heights, grass variety selection, irrigation audits and upgrades, hand watering, all of the different things that golf course superintendents are doing, not only in southern Utah, because the drought isn't just in southern Utah. I mean, we're looking at northern Utah water shortages as well. So these are practices and things that are being put into play all over the state, so the golf courses are using less water.
There's so many facets of our life where we don't understand what goes into it, but when you see a really passionate superintendent with his knees down on the green, like closely examining every little blade of grass on one section of a green, you realize there's a lot to all this stuff that people go to school for and spend a lot of time going down the rabbit hole. Okay, so many courses in the U.S., they're country club courses. We know this. A cost for around there on a big famous course can be thousands of dollars. Clubs in California, they pay really low property taxes. Does that, just as a reputation, sort of as a something that people know exists, it maybe makes more headlines, does that hurt the game, you think?
I'd like to address that, Nick. And I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier about First Tee and other programs like it. Youth Course is one. There are several others that really make an effort to make sure that people have access to the game. And there's an awfully lot of golf courses, hundreds of golf courses, thousands, that participate in these programs to make sure that there is accessibility to people who want to play the game. And there will always be some courses that are exclusive and that are private. And we understand that, just like there are many other kinds of exclusive private clubs in different parts of the society, dinner clubs and things such as that. And that's great, but there is, especially in Utah, there's really good accessibility, and there's a really solid core of courses all throughout the state where people can play the game and learn the game and enjoy the game with their family and with their friends in a very accessible way. You asked about the experience of the game. Yeah, when the game first started, came to the United States more specifically from Scotland, a couple hundred years ago, it was a very exclusive thing, but that has continued to change and is something where the accessibility is continuing to grow throughout the game.
Well, we want to get to that after the break, talking about the accessibility, the growth of the sport. Jacob Miller, Paul Pugmire, we're going to be back with you in about 2.5 minutes. Thanks, guys, and folks at home, stay with us. And welcome back to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on the state of golf in Utah. Kind of a fun subject here. We're back with Jacob Miller. Jacob, talk about how you see golf fitting into the story of America. I mean, this is serious. Augusta only recently integrated, allowing women. It's important to acknowledge some of this history. So what does that say?
I think the history of golf is, like many of the sports, there's some deplorable things in the past, and a lot of what golf administrators like Paul and myself are working towards, and golf organizations are making the game more accessible. A great example of that would be the Youth Course program here in Utah. It's a subsidy program that allows kids to play the game of golf at 32 different facilities in the state for $5 or less. One of the things that you hear about golf is that it is expensive, and whereas I don't think that's the case here in Utah, a program like Youth Course is giving almost 5,000 kids access to the game of golf for $5 or less. And like you said earlier, you can barely get a cup of coffee for $5, let alone play a round of golf.
Right, especially with inflation. I have to imagine a lot of these courses being municipal hopefully haven't hiked the prices just yet. Let's talk about popularity and viability. I mean, how many people are golfing in Utah? And let's talk about the trends. You know, you just do a quick Google search, popularity of golf, and all these national organizations have just done these trend pieces about how it just absolutely exploded, basically as high as it's ever done in history, except for when Tiger totally changed everything back in '97.
Yeah, you had the Tiger boom, you know, back in the '90s. But when you're looking at golf these days, the pandemic really changed the game. It was one of those things that people felt safe going out and doing, and you know, you could do with your friends and still see people and get out on the course and get some fresh air and not be stuck in your house. You know, we've spent the last couple of years in this pandemic, so the popularity has been off the charts, and you can see that across the game, whether it's tournament entries at clubs, whether it's Utah Golf Association membership, participation in programs like the First Tee or Youth on Course. The popularity has gone through the roof. Talking with professionals at their facilities around the state, in 2020, everybody was hitting record numbers of rounds, you know, numbers that they had never seen before, and those trends have really continued here in 2021, and we expect them to continue on to the future. You look at private clubs, you know, there's hardly a membership available in the entire state at a private facility. So when you're talking about popularity right now, it's hard to get a tee time.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, I saw a YouTube video. It was Michael Jordan and obviously, you know, Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry, and he was interviewing Jordan. And Jordan said he has this competitive, you know, just desire. He has to be competitive. He says golf is the most difficult competitive sport there is. You're competing against yourself. And both these guys are obsessed with it. I think it speaks to how golf can really just attach to you once you sort of get it.
It does.
I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. I guess if there's someone out there who doesn't understand golf, can you translate why people love it from basketball players to kids to
Sure.
everyone in between?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that, and I want to start by amplifying something Jake was saying. Our phone at First Tee rings every day with parents calling to say their kid is interested in the game and they don't know how to get into it because they are not golfers. That means that that means these kids are not coming because their parents are asking them to. These kids are finding their own interest in the game, and then they are bringing their parents, and that is happening all the time. And then your question about what makes it so appealing. We tell the kids all the time, golf is hard, and if it wasn't hard, you would see monkeys doing it. And then I ask the kids, have you ever seen a monkey play golf? And they always start laughing, and the answer is no. But that's part of the appeal. It's hard. It really tests you. It really makes you stretch in so many ways. It makes you stretch physically, mentally, emotionally, and it gives you so many different avenues to develop yourself and develop your skills. Golf requires you cannot specialize like in other sports. You can't be a pitcher or a catcher, a quarterback or a receiver. You've got to do it all. And it makes you do all of these things with all of your faculties. And because of that, it wraps itself around your brain, and just that's why you see such passionate people committed to the game like Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah, Paul, and the thing is, it teaches you that everything is right between your ears, right? It's so mental, and so is life. And golf also teaches you, because it's so difficult, and you always are going to have things happen in life that you don't want to happen. How do you respond when you fail? How do you respond when you miss? Because everyone falls down, but it's not about that. It's what do you do once you fall down? Paul, I want to talk about First Tee. I mean, it offers initiatives for kids to take up golf. I don't know if it was just me, but kids not on their screens, being outside, doing something physical. It looks pretty cool, seeing those images there. What do you want to say about your program that you haven't already addressed?
I want to say everybody's welcome. Everybody's wanted. There's a place for every kid at First Tee. We have kids from across the community, across the spectrum, and we love them all. And they will have a positive experience in the game, and they'll go home happy. They'll be safe while they're with us there, and they'll enjoy their experience and grow in the game. And First Tee is an opportunity to get started in the game and then to run parallel with the other great programs in Utah. Utah has an extremely well-developed and unusually well-developed set of junior golf programs. And First Tee works the best when it's in parallel with the Utah Section PGA Junior Series, with U.S. Kids, with the Utah Junior Golf Association,
Absolutely.
Other great programs. And we just want to say everybody's welcome at First Tee. It's a great place to get started and then to continue in the game. And at First Tee, you will learn, your children will learn how to be, the skills and the characteristics to become successful adults. They'll learn it through the game of golf, and they'll have a great set of friends and a great set of skills when they come out of it.
Absolutely. So I do want to ask another question to Jacob. We've been doing a lot of positive. What concerns you about the future as it relates to golf in Utah, or just the future of the game?
I think one of the great barriers to the game is the time that it takes to play, and I think the Utah Golf Association, you look at our championships, and we have a very stringent pace of play policy, which doesn't always make players happy when they finish their rounds. But in our mind, when we look at the game, it's one of those things that keeps people away, is the time that it takes. So being a champion for pace of play and having faster rounds and not going out and spending 5 hours of your Saturday away from your family or whatever it might be is something that we see as a piece that we want to continue to hound on and find ways to make it better.
Jacob Miller, Paul Pugmire, such a pleasure to talk about golf. Never thought I'd be saying that on the news. So we appreciate you for being with us tonight. We're grateful for the chance to have this conversation. We'll be right back after the break.